Many people have stressed to me that there seems to be no guides for what to do after your first few hours of gameplay, all the way up until the end game. There's some fantastic beginner guides and some fantastic endgame guides, but if you don't want to waste all of your money and be using the wrong equipment for hours and hours in the meantime, there's not really any help for you there. So, welcome to my complete breakdown of the best stratagems, ship modules, weapons and armor to unlock as you are leveling up. I'll assume you've got basic knowledge of the game and you're around level 5, and now let me help you use your money efficiently and make sure you're purchasing the best stratagems, modules and warbond equipment as you progress into the endgame fully prepared. We'll start off with these stratagems, and I'll do my best to keep this as snappy as possible because this is already going to be a monster of a video and I don't want to overwhelm you with too many details of the many stratagems we'll be looking at. So as we take a look at the Patriotic Administration Center, the top 3 I say you unlock when you get there is the recoilless rifle, the autocannon and the railgun. The recoilless rifle is a very slow weapon to reload unless your friend can hold the ammo pack for you. This gun isn't really worth using without being able to do that. You can use it yourself, but it is going to take a lifetime to reload, but it's the most powerful low-level weapon. You can only get a handheld weapon that compares to this when you unlock the railgun at level 20. As you'll see here, the autocannon is nearly as powerful, however it can hold a hell of a lot more bullets and it fires significantly faster. Also, you can reload this pretty damn quick yourself, loading mags of 5 bullets at a time. It shoots very fast and it will melt smaller targets. The only problem is it's not quite powerful enough to penetrate the armor of the likes of chargers. So if you want a low level weapon that's also going to be effective against the likes of chargers, titans and hulks, then maybe stick with the recoilless rifle if you've got a friend to help you reload. Apart from that, when you finally get to level 20, make sure you have saved up enough requisition to buy the railgun immediately and make this your first purchase. It will strip the armor off a charger in 2 shots, and it can even one-shot hulks and bile titans if you aim absolutely perfectly at the sweet spot right between the eyes. 2 honorable mentions in this category before we move on. The expendable anti-tank that you unlock at level 3 is quite powerful. It does say that it destroys armor, but unless you manage to aim absolutely perfectly, it's still going to take 3 shots just to kill a charger. And considering you only call these down in pairs, and they are literally one use and then they get thrown away, they're not as great as they sound. And finally, we've got the spear, which sounds on paper so much better than it unfortunately is. Yes, it can one-shot a tank. Yes, it is technically the most powerful handheld weapon in the game. However, like the recoilless rifle, this is going to take a lifetime to reload if you're having to reload it yourself. It also has the lowest ammunition of any weapon in the game at a total of 4. It also refuses to lock onto smaller targets, so if you are hoping to use its splash damage to take out a sea of hunters, nope, it physically will not let you lock onto anything smaller than a brood commander. And on top of that, it cannot be reloaded with the ammo that you see scattered throughout the world. In fact, it will register that you have ammo missing, and when you try to pick it up, you will indeed pick up the ammo, but you won't reload anything. You will have just wasted that ammo for your entire team. That's because the ammo you see lying around on the floor is only half as effective as a supply pack, and it needs 1 full supply pack just to replenish 1 rocket. Therefore, for the horrendous drawbacks this has, you are far better using the railgun. It is superior in every way. It will penetrate everything. It will strip the armor off anything. And unlike the rest of the guns in this category that I've just listed, it doesn't even need a backpack. It truly is far superior to any other handheld weapon. Next up, let's take a look at my top 3 orbital cannon stratagems. This is going to be the airburst strike, the laser and the rail cannon. Firstly, let me give an honorable mention to the 120mm and the 380mm HE barrage. Another stratagem that sounds so much better on paper than it actually is. Unfortunately, as you can see in these clips here, they are just way too inconsistent. When they hit, they're pretty good. And you may be saying, especially with the 380mm, but it's supposed to be used on big nests and big factories. Totally get that, but that just gives it an even wider area to potentially miss every single thing it's supposed to be aiming at. They are far too high risk, high reward for a game like Helldivers, where you need to make every single shot count. So until you hit level 15 and you can unlock the laser, if you want any orbitals, just stick with the airburst strike. The fact that this shoots down 3 consecutive bursts, not only can it easily one-shot every low-level enemy, it will even take out chargers because it's got such a wide spread. It will hit the back, and if all 3 bursts hit their back, they are dead before they even have a chance to recover. It doesn't have the widest spread in the world, but for a fairly cheap, only level 5 unlock, trust me, it is really valuable in many situations. And then, as I say, when you finally get up to level 15 and then level 20, the orbital laser is absolutely amazing. You can only use it 3 times per mission, but it lasts so long that it's got enough juice to take out a Bile Titan and a few stragglers, or even 2 chargers before it runs out of juice. This is the most cost efficient of every single stratagem in the game, dealing far more damage than the rail cannon, albeit over a much longer period of time. And for the final one I recommend in this category, the rail cannon strike has no equal. It can and will one-shot every single enemy in the game. Sometimes it's a tiny bit inconsistent with Bile Titans. If it doesn't hit them in the right place, it won't one-shot them, but everything else in the game is a guaranteed one-shot kill. If you have a few members of your team rocking the rail cannon strike and you coordinate them well, you can kill a string of big threats without even breaking a sweat or firing a single bullet. As we move into the hangar, you'll be very happy to hear we have some fantastic, very powerful options here, even at low levels. So you're not going to have to wait to level 15 or 20 before you can get some really juicy additions to your loadout. Firstly, my 2 honourable mentions are the Napalm Airstrike and the Cluster Bomb. Don't get me wrong, both of these are fantastic, and at low level, potentially get them if you have the spare money. They are both pretty strong, especially the damage over time of the Napalm Airstrike. Unfortunately, damage-wise, they both pale in comparison to the base Eagle Airstrike that you unlock at level 2. Even at level 50, I still see many people running the airstrike. It does have 2 less charges than the cluster bomb, when fully upgraded, the cluster bomb being 5 and the airstrike only being 3. But the main thing that makes the airstrike so powerful is it does drop armor-piercing rockets, whereas the cluster bomb cannot pierce armor and is therefore ineffective against anything even lightly armored. If it hits well, the airstrike can even kill chargers and devastators, something that the Napalm Airstrike and the cluster bomb cannot do, and they both unlock at later levels and are more expensive. So for your early game hangar stratagem that will see you all the way through to the end, definitely pick up the Eagle Airstrike ASAP. As for the other 2 that I recommend, we are looking at the rocket pods and eventually the 500 kg bomb. Now, after doing substantial testing, the rocket pods can annoyingly be fairly inconsistent. They are supposed to target the largest enemy closest to the beacon. However, during my testing, they were missing time and time again. But trust me, in my offline play, they have frequently nailed every big threat for me. Not necessarily killing them in one hit, but stripping the armor from them and leaving them wide open to be killed by even my weakest of weapons. The rocket pods, considering they are such a high level stratagem, also give you plenty of uses before they need to go and rearm. So they are very quick and versatile, and you can even use them to take out clusters of smaller enemies such as devastators or hive guards. And finally, for this category, we have the 500 kg bomb. The only thing I wish about this bomb is that it had a wider radius, a bigger spread, because even though it does a hell of a lot of damage at point blank range, and it can one-shot a Bile Titan, if the enemy you're targeting decides to come barreling towards you and it just clips the back of them, it won't kill them. It will barely even wound them. So this bomb needs to be smack bang on your target. It needs to be very accurate. And if it is, it will kill them in certain situations. And due to that, one fantastic recommendation I have for you is to use this on the location of a bot drop or a bug breach. As soon as you see that dropship stop moving, or as soon as you see the breach in the ground, rather than saving your 500 kg bombs for Hulks and Titans, throw your bomb down exactly where the enemies are going to start spawning. That is where it's going to have the most effect. And now as we move into the bridge, this is probably the weakest category. I only have two for you here that I can really highly recommend. And one that, again, sounds incredible on paper, but I advise you to stay away from at all costs. And that one, first to get it out of the way, is the Tesla Tower. This can do insane amounts of damage. The only problem is it's very hard to tell what its maximum range is, and it will do just as much damage to you as it will to your enemies. If you take even one step too close to its fairly significantly large radius, you will be killed instantaneously. So though it can melt waves of enemies, it can also cause havoc throughout your own ranks as well, and it's a very squishy emplacement. If even one stray enemy gets too close, it will be taken out far too quickly, and it just really isn't worth the investment and the wasted slot. Now, as for the two stratagems I do recommend from the bridge, they are certainly not as powerful as some of the others we've been talking about, but if you really want to use something from every category, I would recommend the Orbital Gas Strike and the Shield Generator Relay. Even though the gas that the gas strike releases doesn't cover a huge area, the damage over time it does is significantly more powerful than napalm. If you want to kill things with damage over time in this game, I would strongly advise the gas over fire. As long as they are caught in the full duration of the gas, even Devastators and Brood Commanders will die just from the gas without you needing to shoot them even once. And on top of this, it has one of the shortest cooldowns of any reasonably powerful stratagem, so you can cool this down a lot more frequently than some of the others that you might use instead. And my second recommendation from this category at level 10 is the Shield Generator Relay. The energy shield that it deploys isn't as powerful as I'd like it to be. I feel like this gets shot down far quicker than it should. In theory, I love what they're doing with this one, and against bots especially, it's a great idea, and in certain situations it can be really good. I just hope that we see this stratagem get buffed in an upcoming patch, because I would really like to see the Shield Generator Relay survive a few more rounds of fire than it currently does. Now we are on to the second last category of stratagems, the Engineering Bay, and there is some really great choices in here. Firstly, I will advise you to not purchase the Arc Thrower for very similar reasons to the Tesla Tower. As you will see in these clips, the damage is so inconsistent. If enemies are up close, it just seems to completely miss them. Even if you have point blank got the gun inside of their face, somehow the lightning will do nothing. At range, I can't seem to figure out exactly how far ranged it is. Sometimes it seems to be able to hit things 40 meters away, sometimes it misses things 10 meters away, even if I'm aiming directly at them. Sometimes it bounces to only one enemy, sometimes it's 3 enemies. It's very inconsistent, and even in the times when it is performing well, there are far better choices. Add on top of that, the fact that it seems to love to arc to your teammates. The amount of times I would shoot this thing at a bug right in front of me, it would skip its 2 friends directly behind it, and then it would ricochet off to my teammate to the left 20 meters away from me, instantly killing them. It is so lethal and so unpredictable in all the wrong ways. Stay away from the Arc Thrower. Now, for the engineering-based stratagems that I do suggest, the supply pack, as you all know if you've seen my tips video, is absolutely incredible. The fact that this will effectively not just double, but triple your supply uses is absolutely invaluable for teams with heavy ammo and equipment usage. This is such a sleeper and a really powerful backpack for one of your team to have. Next up, you've got the grenade launcher, the absolute best handheld crowd control weapon in the game. With its 10 shots per magazine, it will melt swathes of enemies in seconds. Though if you are using the grenade launcher as frivolously as I like to, the supply pack might become quite a necessity for you, because it will reload 2 full magazines at a time, and you will be churning through lots of grenades. Next up, we have got the shield generator pack, which feels like it has nearly as powerful of a shield as the shield generator relay, and it's all for you. This thing is going to effectively double your life bar. You will take 0 damage from a railgun blast to the face if you accidentally walk in front of one of your friends. Even a charger charging right at your face, that shield generator is going to almost entirely nullify even the most powerful of charges. This is definitely the best defensive backpack item. And for the final engineering-based stratagem that I advise, we've got the Guard Dog Rover. This is the iteration of the Guard Dog with the laser, and this thing seems to never ever overheat. On hot planets where lasers overheat more, you do occasionally see it need to cool down, but in comparison to the other Guard Dog, which uses an assault rifle, this thing has far more uptime and is going to be shooting at your enemies 99% of the time. If you were to play 2 missions the exact same, but bring the shield generator pack for one of them and the Guard Dog Rover for the other, check your stats screen at the end of the mission and I can almost guarantee your kills have doubled. This thing puts out so much more work than you realise, and is constantly batting off raiders and scavengers and hunters and you name it, without you even knowing. This is a piece of equipment I really hope doesn't get nerfed, because it is truly, truly powerful, and at only level 10, this is an absolute must-have for the mid-game. And finally, before we move on to ship modules, we have got the Robotics Workshop, which is effectively a load of sentries and the Guard Dog. Straight off the bat, don't bother with the machine gun sentry, don't bother with the Guard Dog. The Guard Dog Rover, far superior to the Guard Dog, and the Gatling sentry, far superior to the machine gun sentry. As for the others, let me show you some footage of the rocket sentry now trying its best to do, I don't even know what. Just look at this, it is abysmal. If a target gets too close, it throws a hissy fit and it won't do anything. It is very inconsistently shooting at rocks. It misses its targets so often because the rockets are abysmally slow, and even with every upgrade, it doesn't have that much ammo, it doesn't turn that quick. It truly is an absolutely garbage stratagem. If you want something like the rocket sentry, just buy the autocannon. The autocannon is ridiculous. 2 volleys and it has killed a charger. And with the ship module upgrades that we'll talk about in just a second, it moves fast. It's got endless amounts of ammo. The autocannon is everything that the rocket wishes it could be. It is far superior in every way. And apart from for certain defensive missions, the autocannon sentry, definitely the best sentry in the game. It's got some really decent splash damage, it's very fast. Its only drawback is its turning speed at low levels, but we'll address that in a second when we come to the modules. Before we move on, let me talk about the last 2 sentries I haven't mentioned yet, the Mortar Sentry at level 8 and the EMS Mortar at level 20. If you've seen my fast leveling guide, you already know how powerful these 2 are. Just using these 2 stratagems alone, I went from level 40 to level 50 in 1 day. For defense missions, there is no equal. If all 4 members of your team bring these 2 stratagems, no guns, no rail cannons, no orbitals, no eagles, nothing, and you just sit there and crouch in AFK, they will win you the game 100% of the time. They are so powerful for defense missions. Just be careful bringing them out onto the field, because the mortar will likely blow up you and your friends many times. And now that you know which stratagems to focus on first as you're leveling up, let's move on to which complementing modules are the best. This section of the video is much easier, much more straightforward. Tip number 1 is focus on getting every single module to level 1. All of the level 1 upgrades are invaluable in one way or another. And because from memory, they all just require common samples. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, I believe all of the level 1s just require common samples. And this is fantastic news for you, because in the low levels of play, this is all you'll be farming, so it ties in perfectly with your first goal of getting every ship module to level 1. And whilst you're doing that, you'll be unlocking more stratagems, you'll be getting better at the game, and you'll be starting to farm some rare and some super samples. And this is where your selections will change slightly depending on your playstyle, but here's my primary recommendations. If sentries are amongst your favorite stratagems to use, especially if you're doing lots of defense missions, then I strongly advise working up to the high quality lubricant as quickly as you can. Some of these ship modules only really improve something by 5 or 10%. Maybe they decrease the cooldown time by 10 seconds, or decrease the call-in time by 2 seconds. Your sentries will rotate something like 200% faster between targets once you have unlocked the high quality lubricant. And in order to unlock this, you will need to get the shock absorption gel as well, which is amazing because they're going to have 50% more ammo, which means they last significantly longer. And honestly, if you've seen all of the mortar footage from my previous videos, it doesn't even feel like they just last 50% longer. It feels like they last for an infinite amount of time. The shock absorption gel, along with the high quality lubricant, truly game-changing upgrades for your sentries. And the next two ship modules that I would recommend, perhaps before the sentries if this is more your playstyle, are going to be the Hangar upgrades to affect your Eagles. I can almost guarantee you will find yourself using Eagles far more frequently than Orbitals. And the main reason for this is most of them have 2 to 4 charges before they then need to go and rearm. So especially if you are speedrunning towards the expanded weapons bay, this upgrade is insane because it will double the amount of uses for your 500 kilogram bomb from 1 to 2, and it will also give you so many additional uses overall before you send your Eagle away to leave and rearm. And couple this with the pit crew hazard pay, which you have to get to unlock the expanded weapon bay. This means that the rearm time is even shorter than it already was. I think it's only 2 minutes, maybe like 2 minutes 10 maximum. And if you think just for one use of the rail cannon or the orbital laser, you're talking upwards of 4 to 5 minutes before you can use them again. Whereas the Eagles you can use nearly half a dozen times, and then 2 minutes later, they're back again. So trust me, Eagles, sentries, and level 1 in all the ship modules, that wants to be your main focus. It's going to completely change the game and make it significantly easier. Now let's talk about your weapons and armor in relation to the warbonds passes. Firstly, you'll be happy to know that all 3 of the top 3 weapons I've picked that I'm going to recommend for you today all come from the regular Helldivers Mobilize pass. Initially, I wanted to do this anyway because I didn't want to lock you out of any of my recommendations if you don't want to or can't afford to pay for the premium pass. But honestly, for anyone that doesn't have it, especially when it comes to the weapons, although all 3 weapons in the premium pass do have fun, quirky bonus effects, their damage is lackluster, and the bonus effects do not make up for the loss of damage. So, for the 3 top weapons that I recommend you unlock as soon as possible, on page 3 you have got the SMG-37 Defender. This is the most powerful one-handed weapon in the game, and just looking at the raw damage output, it even outdamages most assault rifles. Combine that with the fact that it does have the one-handed trait, and this is key in certain missions, allowing you to carry items like hard drives without having to sacrifice your firepower, which will make you a really sought after member and an invaluable member of any team. Next up on page 4, you've got the SG-225 Breaker. Most people agree this is the best gun in the game. I think that's debatable. I think my final weapon might be even more powerful. But either way, the SG-225 Breaker, there is very, very little reason to use anything else until you get right near the end of the Helldivers Mobilize pass. As I say, this is only on page 4, so you will unlock it pretty early on. It has high damage, it's full auto, and it's very, very good for clearing waves of pouncers and other fast-moving enemies that like to get up in your face, like the Assault Raiders and the Brawlers from the bots. Overall, this is an all-round, really solid early game weapon that can easily carry you through to level 50. And my final weapon recommendation, another extremely powerful one in very different situations to the Breaker. This is the SG-8S Slugger on page 8 of the same pass. And don't be fooled, even though that it says this weapon is light armor penetrating, just like pretty much every single other primary weapon in the game, it can definitely penetrate medium armor, as seen here, as it's blasting through the tough head and face of Hive Guards. something which all other light armor penetrating weapons cannot do. This also applies to certain bots, such as the Devastator and the Rocket Devastator. Very little armor will stop the Slugger. It is single shot and shoots a lot fire than the Breaker, so the actual DPS is lower, but as long as you make every shot count, its ammo is going to stretch far further, and it's a super efficient ammo usage weapon with the firepower to back it up. Switching between these three, depending on the mission, is going to have you sorted in 100% of situations. And now finally, let's talk about the armor. As everybody hopefully knows by now, the armor rating in this game currently doesn't work, which means your best bet is to always stick with light armor for now and just use whichever armor traits best suit you. So please keep that in mind for this section, but with that being said, because this won't always be the case and it will be fixed soon, let's review the armor overall, assuming that this has been fixed and armor rating now works. So firstly, let's look at the armor rating to speed and stamina regen ratio. And using medium armor as a benchmark, you can see that medium armor is actually the most efficient. When you have a look at light armor, let's use my favorite one, for example, the Legionnaire. Your armor rating will take a hit of 44 and your speed will be increased by 44, but your stamina regen will only be increased by 22. Whereas with medium, it's 100, 500, and 100. Now, if we take a look at another medium armor that's slightly on the heavier side, the B24 Enforcer, this one has an increased armor rating of 25, with a reduction in speed of 25, and a reduction in stamina regen of 25. So when the armor goes up by X amount, for it to be an efficient armor, the speed and stamina regen will come down by the same amount. And you will see that reflected in the heavy armor as well. With a 44 increase to armor rating, there is a 44 reduction to both speed and stamina regen. So when you're talking about the base stats, light armor is less efficient because stamina regen doesn't go up as much as it does go down the other way. So ideally, if you want the most efficient stats, you just want to stick with medium armor. However, of course, feel free to take the hit to armor if you do like being light and fast. But perhaps the most important thing, even when armor rating is working, is the armor passive. And on that front, there are two that I would recommend. Firstly, we'll start off with Democracy Protects. This gives you a 50% chance to not die when taking lethal damage, plus it prevents bleeding from hemorrhage. And both of these things happen far more than you think they're going to, especially on higher difficulties. The amount of time that 50% chance has saved me, and I have been so sure that I was dead, and then a few seconds later thought, oh wait, why, how am I alive? Quickly stimmed, ran away, and all is well. Democracy Protects really will save your life far more than you think when you just look at this armor set on paper. Or even better, and my personal favorite, is Servo Assisted. This will increase both your throwing range and your limb health, meaning that you can operate on lower health, meaning that hopefully even if you take a big hit, your limbs are unaffected and you'll be able to soldier on without needing to waste as many stim packs. Also, you all already know how much I love the increased throwing range. This effectively increases your maximum throwing distance without any height advantage from 44 meters to 66 meters. And this is huge as it allows you to take out nests and factories with minimal to no aggro, especially if you have that reduced aggro radius from light armor. And for that reason, my current absolute favorite armor set right now is the Legionnaire's set, which you can get from time to time in the Superstore. So if you have some super creds saved up, I strongly advise you wait until you next see the Legionnaire set in the Superstore and go and grab it. It's a light armor which will passively increase your stealth. It also has the servo assisted passive, meaning that you can effectively stealth snipe small to medium camps, making you lethal even as a solo player. And this makes you a really valuable member of any team because you're able to go and perform solo operations with minimal risk. Now you know everything you should be saving up for and where you should be spending your money for the next 10 to 15 levels. And of course, once you've bought everything I've recommended here and you've got some more money, just go and buy everything. That's the dream, that's the end goal, isn't it? So with that, my friends, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.